And so the question is, why are we here today? We've kind of covered this, but is that Waimea stood up, and they stood up together, and right now, they're the community that's accomplished the most, in my opinion, in all of Hawaii, as far as understanding what kind of chemicals are being used at these operations. And the basic thing is just that people have a right to know what those chemicals are. And so again, why is this important? I'm going to just walk through this today. I'll show you why it's important. Hope you guys can see that. That's why it's important. That's where many, not most of the people in this room live. Over here on the right, step away so it doesn't. Over on the right is the Pioneer operation. And everyone knows which way the wind blows here most of the time when the trade winds are blowing. It's across those fields into this town. Can you guys see that at all? Can you see where the red X is? Well, that red X is basically where you guys are sitting. Okay? That's not where most of our clients live. That's where we are today. And this is part of the Pioneer Fields upwind up the hill. It's roughly 1,000 acres. Not everybody knows that. And it's a research center. That's important. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later today about what that means for this community. The question is when chemicals get used on those fields, where do they go? And this is what's called a dispersion model. Okay? What it shows is it looks at things like wind, looks at things like topography, right? And it basically says, here's where things are likely to blow. And when you put stuff up on the poly, up on those fields, where they're likely to go is into Waimea. You guys see the red X again. These are the Syngenta fields, which, right out that door. We're going to talk about that some today too, about the Waimea air quality study that was done, about the air quality levels in this school and in this area. Okay? But just in broad terms, there's about 90 different pesticide formulations that are used from 2007 to 2013. The real nuts and bolts is there's a little better than 60 or so active ingredients. Okay, but these are the basic active ingredients that are reported with the EPA. And the primary ones are, well, it's off the bottom, but essentially it's insecticides, herbicides, fungicides are the most common pesticides used. Now let's talk about, just in big general terms, the classifications. We have some information. If you took these 90-odd trade names, it's 60 or so different kinds of chemicals, and you broke them down, there's a lot of different types. And some of these are not that bad, okay? Soaps, different kinds of, often the microbiologicals are not as dangerous. But there's also some that are not good, things that we've all heard about. The, carbamates, organophosphates, things like chlorpyrifos. If you wanted to look at, the nicotinoids and neonicotinoids for any beekeepers who are here and are concerned about the impact of bee populations, things like imidacloprid. These things are also being used. This is how many average days of the year. So if you got about 300, if you have 365 days in the year, how many of those days are they actually applying pesticides? And it changes, it goes up and down, but on average, it's about 65% of the days of the year. So when people from Waimea tell you, and have told people, that we feel like they're spraying almost every day, they're not making that up. There are days of the year, there are years where it's closer to 80% of the days of the year. So again, the question is, why is this important for us today, sitting here? And this is the reason. Atrazine was found in test results in this school, in the drinking water. Okay? BHC was found in Waimea Canyon Middle School. DDT found in Waimea Canyon Middle School. Most of you guys know this if you sat through the Waimea Canyon air quality study. Okay? Bifenthrin found in Waimea Canyon Middle School. Metolachlor found in Waimea Canyon Middle School. Chlorpyrifos found in Waimea Canyon Middle School. Yeah. So this is the USDA that did the test of drinking water. It's February 2011, and there's an atrazine finding. I'll be the first to admit, it's not a lot, right? but it is being found here. And the question then becomes, in fact, if any of you guys followed the studies on the atrazine and who sat through the conference that we had on atrazine, it doesn't take a whole lot to have some really nasty consequences. The historical model, it's been outdated for a long time, but is that if you have a little bit of something, it's not that bad. If you have a whole lot, it's going to poison you, right? Water's like that. You can die if you drink too much water. A little bit of water is not such a problem, right? So the more you get, the worse the impact. The problem is that chemicals in your body don't always work that way. And a good example is estrogen. If you have a little bit of estrogen, it makes women fertile. If you have a whole lot of estrogen, it's called birth control. So these chemicals, sometimes very small amounts, can have impacts. And then as the amount builds up in your body, your immune system kicks on and it pushes it out. And then you get more and more and it overwhelms your immune system, and then you can have another impact. If you have young rats that are exposed to low levels of atrazine, I hope I paraphrase this correctly, but essentially that when these female rats grow up, because of the impact on their estrogen and it inhibits that, they'll have impacts to their mammary glands. And so then you'll see impacts to their children and their grandchildren, even if those children and grandchildren are never exposed to the chemical. So you expose these frogs that you test, and then you pull them out, never expose them again. Their children and then their grandchildren are going to have impacts from this chemical that were never exposed. It's pretty incredible. And so the fact that small levels or low levels of these atrazine, for example, is being found, I think experts that work on atrazine is definitely something we should at least take seriously and figure out where it's coming from. And we know pesticides are found in this school, and look at them right now. That's the key. Pesticides are found in this school. And the next question becomes, where are they coming from? And that seems to be the logical place to go. Now again, why is this important? We're going to keep going back to that theme today. This is an article after the atrazine sort of conference we had where we brought speakers in. It was talking about atrazine, and there are articles about it. This is an article, it was in spring of this year, March of this year. And there's a representation by DuPont Pioneer. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but essentially it says, couldn't comment on the active lawsuit. This is Lori Yoshida, a spokeswoman for DuPont Pioneer on Kauai. But she said that the company hasn't sprayed atrazine on its seed corn fields in several years, though it does use other chemicals. Okay? Everybody take a look at that date. This is March of 2013. All right, so right there is atrazine and metolachlor. Okay? Now, both found here, right? All right? That's this time last year. All right? That's why this is important. That's why this information is necessary, so the council and so that you guys can make decisions with actual information. Not on promises, not on representations, not on claims that we're good stewards and we love the Ohana and the Aina and all of this, but on actual information. They said, hey, we found chlorpyrifos, but it's under the California health screening levels, everything's okay, right? What was not said there is any information of what chlorpyrifos was. This is the EPA revised risk assessment from June of 2000. I'm going to read it. Chlorpyrifos use in schools, parks, and other settings where children may be exposed will be canceled. So the only time it's supposed to be allowed after this time frame is where children will not be exposed. This is the notice to retailers, January 2001. This agreement stops the sale. I'm seeing these slides and realizing the sale of virtually all home use products, many other indoor and outdoor non-residential uses where children could be exposed as of December 2001. The important take home here is that June of 2000, 2001, this chemical was essentially either totally taken off the market or it was restricted only to uses where children were not supposed or could not be exposed. And that's a chemical that's being found here.
The fact that that chemical was found in this school, and it's specifically banned in schools, should be sounding the alarm bells at the Department of Health, Department of Agriculture.
If you look at the actual Hawaii training materials on these same chemicals though, for pesticide applicators, don't know if you guys can see this in the back, I'll read it. Scientists, pesticide manufacturers, and the Environmental Protection Agency cannot yet be sure what the delayed effects of too much exposure to individual pesticides or combinations of pesticides may be. It may be years before there are clear answers on the effects of all the pesticides and combinations of pesticides in use today. Meanwhile, it makes good sense to reduce your exposure to all pesticides as much as possible. So again, this stuff, it's not safe, and it is in the school. If you don't want to take the state of Hawaii's word for it, you don't want to take my word for it, Pioneer tells its workers about these chemicals, and in their information it says, you know, pesticides can hurt you if it gets on your skin and your eyes, if you breathe them, if you swallow them. It can affect people in different ways. Children breathe more air per body weight because of how small they are. The respiratory rates are higher. The point is that testing a rat, or a rabbit, or dog, or whatever, and testing one does not provide you with great information about how it's going to impact all the differences you see in this room, from little kids, to women, to men, to adults, to children. Short-term effects, long-term effects. Chronic effects from pesticides, cancer, liver damage. Again, it's not my slide. There's far more than these. Again, let's talk to Pioneer about how to protect ourselves. We can all wear long pants, long sleeve shirts, shoes, and socks if you're up there working. You also need to stay out, and this is very important, stay out of areas where pesticides are being applied. If pesticides drift to where you're working, leave the area. Okay? Kids can't leave this school, right? People in Waimea can't leave their homes. And if you don't know, yeah, you can't leave your work. If you work here, that's right. So again, it's not my slide. So what am I going to do if you're exposed? Well, if you're breathing pesticide vapors, please get to fresh air as soon as possible. All those same things can't be done.
They're telling us, and there are clients in the room that I'm quoting, people who are sitting in this room, okay? And if I'm wrong, call me on it. They're telling us that they hear the tractors at night. And when they hear the tractors at night, they can smell the chemical smells. It comes in their homes, they can smell it, their children are in bed. Okay? There's one couple in here who will tell you, they hear the tractors at night, they go outside with their flashlight. They shine the flashlight up in the sky and it's coming down like snowflakes, okay, onto this community. Okay? And I've sat through 64 depositions, well, almost 64, Kyle sat through some of them, of our clients. And client after client will testify under oath that they smell this sick, sweet odor. It smells like bubble gum. Pioneer, I don't know if we brought a picture of bubble gum or not. Pioneer uses a masking agent called bubble gum. We have a picture of it taken right off of their field, okay? And what they do is they put this bubble gum masking agent into the pesticide tank, and they're trying to mask the smell of the chemicals. Now, why would anyone want to mask the smell if they're taking the position that their chemicals don't drift? If you can smell it, it's at your house. If you can smell it down the road, it's where you are. Okay? And that bubble gum is being smelled all over this community. And maybe Kyle can pull it up, you'll see what it is. And you can Google it. Anybody wants to go Google bubble gum masking agent, you see it's specifically made to mask chemical odors. And that's what they use. And client after client after client under oath testified they smelled it in the community. How is it getting there? Okay. How's it getting here to this school?
This is what is said in court pleadings. This is recently. The use of agricultural pesticides, or chemicals, is by definition part of farming. And the essence of the Hawaii Right to Farm Act is that off-site impacts incident to farming are presumptively not tortious. Now, if you're not an attorney, all a tort is when someone else hurts somebody else. And what they're saying is that Hawaii law, the Right to Farm Act, that off-site impacts, if they're farming and they use chemicals and there's an off-site impact to this town, they're immune. That's what's being said in that sentence. And they're saying that they're protected by the Hawaii law. Well, that's if that were true, that's our job to try to beat that, right? That's our job. This bill's about information. It's not about throwing people out of work. It's not about making everybody healthy, really. It's about getting information so then we can make decisions, really so you guys can make decisions and the council can make decisions on a going forward basis. Let me just make one last point on this, is that, so at these meetings, no one wants to take people's jobs. In fact, we want these seed corn company workers to stand up with us to say, we want our companies to disclose pesticides, right? If it's safe, we want them to have jobs, and we also want to know what you're spraying. And if a company won't tell you the chemicals that it's using, or if they try to threaten you that we're going to fire your people if you force us to tell you the kind of chemicals we use, well, then you can make a decision on whether or not that's a company you want in your community.